Okay, welcome back to Spray River Homestead. Today we're talking about the top 5 misconceptions about off-grid homesteading. So when we first started moving out to our property, off to our homestead, one of the great things people always asked us was about living without power or plumbing.
Yeah, and being off-grid doesn't mean necessarily that you don't have these things. We have all the normal plumbing that anybody else has. I will say the first year, of course, we pumped water out of a cistern, which was a little different. But other than that, I mean, we take showers, we have a flushing toilet, we do dishes, all that normal stuff. Now, is power a little bit of an issue? It was. And as everybody by now knows, we are on a full solar system. So, yeah, I mean, we live like normal people. We have refrigerators and freezers, and I sew with the sewing machine, and Kanan uses power tools out in the garage. So we have just all the normal stuff everybody else does, and we are not the exception. A lot of homesteaders live just the same way we do.
So just remember, off-grid homesteading typically does have electrical power and plumbing. There are some that choose not to have it, and that's just a personal choice. For us, we're just like most of you. We have power and plumbing and flushing toilets. So the second thing people always think about when you say you're an off-grid homesteader is that they fully believe you somehow managed to live completely sustainable. You raise your own food, your own vegetables, your own proteins, and you also raise everything for your animals. So you're almost self-contained out on the homestead.
And this goes even into clothing. I was at a rabbit show last year talking to a woman, and she had heard through the grapevine that we live off-grid. So she had come over to ask me questions, and halfway through the conversation, she interrupted me, looked at me, and said, "But you're wearing," I think I was wearing a rabbit t-shirt or something, and like Levi jeans. And she looked at me and she said, "But you can't be an off-grid homesteader. You're wearing clothes like anybody else." I thought this was cute, but really, there are very few off-grid homesteaders that are making their own clothes. Some people do, and I think that's really cool. But most of us don't make our own clothes. Most of us don't grow all of our feed for our animals. You know, we raise a lot of meat here, but I don't raise everything to feed them. I mean, It's just not realistic.
So off-grid homesteading doesn't mean that you have to be totally self-sufficient. It's really kind of a choice of what you want to do and what you can do. Sometimes you're limited by geography. I mean, our garden, it ain't perfect, but by golly, it does quite well for us.
And there are a lot of things that are really difficult for the small homesteader to grow. Can you grow enough wheat to make your own flour? Absolutely you can. But it does take a lot of space and a lot of time and a grinder and a lot of things that most of us do. We buy in bulk? Yeah, we buy in bulk. But we certainly don't buy everything, make everything and grow everything we need to survive. Okay, so going back to that same conversation where the lady questioned the fact that I was wearing a t-shirt and jeans, we get this one an awful lot. And this is a huge misconception. A lot of people think that if you live off-grid, you are doing all of your dishes and laundry by hand. I can't tell you the last time I washed clothing by hand unless I was trying to get a stain out. I assure you, like most of us, I have a washing machine. Do I have a dryer? No, but that is, again, a choice thing. We do have propane and could go ahead and set up a dryer. We choose not to. I think it's a little bit more environmentally friendly to just dry our clothes outside or on a rack in front of the fire in the winter. But we can. There's a lot of homesteaders that I know that actually live off-grid and have dishwashing machines. When we get around to remodeling our kitchen in a couple years, we're probably going to add one. Yes, they eat a lot of power. It's all about being mindful and washing them during the day. But the big thing is hand washing uses a lot of water. And if you've kind of read anything about the freshwater crisis in the United States, you know that every drop is precious. So are we washing everything by hand? No. No, we're not. So the fourth big misconception about homesteading life is that it's simpler, it's easier, and it's less stressful.
Now I gotta tell you, I still work in the corporate world 9 to 5 as much as I have to. But I'll tell you, when you take on the accountability of being a homesteader and trying to raise everything yourself, there is a lot of stress involved, because sometimes when you don't get a project done or you don't get something harvested or anything else, that means you don't eat or drink. So while homesteading seems like it's pretty simple, right? You're just throwing in some vegetables out there, you're growing your own food, or you're harvesting water, or you got a well or anything else. You got to remember, your two hands are what is causing you to eat or not drink. It's pretty easy to go to the store to work a little bit 9 to 5, go in there and pick up a gallon of milk or some water or some bread or anything else. But when you actually have to go out and milk that cow or milk that goat, go out and get those eggs from the chickens or anything else to get ingredients just to make stuff, that's a lot of extra labor and stress that you put on yourself to be a homesteader.
And anybody who's ever bred animals knows that there's a lot of stress involved. Kidding season and lambing season, or calving season if you have a lot of cows, it's stressful. I have 9 rabbits due this week, and I'm going to be out there 2, 3, 4 times a day looking, trying to make sure that moms are having babies, that they're feeding babies, that they're pulling hair when they're supposed to. We're in the height of kidding season right now, and if you don't think that's a very stressful thing, we lost one. We had one little stillborn this year. It happens. But when you've waited 5 and 6 months, I mean, luckily, like Kanan said, he's got a job in the outside corporate world, so we're not overly dependent on anything here that we produce. But otherwise, it could have been a huge setback. I mean, that's $100 to $150 goat that we've waited 5 months for, and now we've got nothing.
All right, so the last thing we always hear about is when we talk to people and they first learn that we're off-grid homesteaders, that we produce our own power, meat, veggies, all that kind of stuff. The comment everybody always makes is, boy, I wish I could do that.
And so that's why it's our last misconception. You can do it. Everybody can do it, at least to some degree. Can you do exactly what we're doing? Maybe not. We're in a pretty fortunate situation. But you can. You really can do this stuff.
One thing you have to remember is that most of the stuff, and I always tease Nikki about it, the technology we honestly use most days homesteading is like 1950s era. There is nothing out here that is so groundbreaking depending on technology. A lot of times it's just about putting in the labor to get it done.
Yeah, most of homesteading, with the exception of the solar system, I mean, really, that's the most high-end thing you'll find here. Most of our haying equipment and implements that go to our tractor were manufactured in the 50s and 60s. So when he says 50s tech, he's really not kidding. We've got our newer tractor, but it's running the same stuff that tractors have run for 30 years. There's nothing real exciting. Most of the systems you use on a homestead are pretty much mechanical in nature, and mechanical stuff really doesn't change much.
So if you guys ever get to that point where you think, boy, I'd like to do that, the only thing stopping you is you. So that's it, guys. Those are the 5 things being off-grid homesteaders for the last few years that we commonly run across in conversation, really, just with people when they want to start asking questions like how we live and what do we do on the homestead, etc., etc. So that's it for this time from Sprague River Homestead. Remember, if you guys have questions or comments, leave them down below. Otherwise, hit the subscribe button to keep up with us, and we will see you next time.
Happy homesteading!